All right. Welcome to another episode of the Arroyo show where we talk about everything. This isn't just a jujitsu podcast or business podcast, but we talk about everything, human performance. We talk about health, wealth, business, finance, all the major areas of your life. We'll even do parenting. We'll do marriages, single. We're going to talk about everything. So today, I'd like to talk about what the wealthy people teach their kids about money growing up and why most wealthy families continue to be wealthy generation after generation. Not always. Sometimes the harder workers raise pansies and the pansies screw it all up and then their kids become strong and all that. And it kind of just keeps flipping generations. But I want to talk mostly about a book that I read about a year ago. And it was called Thou Shalt Prosper by Andrew Lapin. And he is a rabbi. Okay, so, stereotype it all you want. Everybody knows that a big majority of people who are Jewish have some wealth. And it is a stereotype, but there are some truth to some stereotypes. Think of anybody who you know who is Jewish, and most of them are doing pretty good. I'm not saying they're all filthy rich or this or that, billionaires, but they're doing pretty good mostly. There's always an exception to every rule. And there are reasons for that. There are many reasons for that. And it's not because they're Jewish. It's because the Jewish culture, from which I read in this book by Rabbi Andrew Lapin, talks about a few things that separate or make Jewish people, families different. So one thing I will say is I am Christian. And I have nothing against Jewish people or anybody, really. But I want to say the differences that I've found growing up in a Christian/Catholic household versus some of my friends who are Jewish and what they were taught about money growing up. So I would say the most quoted Bible verse, and not just the most quoted one, but really the one that's said wrong almost every time, is money is the root of all evil. How many times have we all heard that saying? Money's the root of all evil. Oh, it's evil. It's easier to get through the pin of, I forget what the saying is, than for a rich person to get to heaven. So it's not the case. That's not what the Bible says. It says the love of money is the root of all evil. What is the love of money? Everybody loves money. I love money. That's not what they're talking about. What they're talking about is you love the money so much that you want to hold it in your hand so tightly that you won't let it go. The people who, and I'm not talking about frugality, that's different. People who are frugal, they check up on the price, they do their research, they wait maybe a couple weeks, they make a decision, they make a purchase. That's not what I'm talking about. I think that's smart. What I'm talking about is the pain that they feel when they buy something for themselves or for their family members, or if they were to give something to someone as a present or as like someone who really needed the money or for something, or a GoFundMe or something like that. And they're like, oh no, I can't let go of this money because, and some people legitimately don't have any money, right? So it's a lot harder for some people to let that go. But I'm talking about people who do have money, discretionary income, meaning having some money left over after you pay your bills. You hold it so tightly that you cannot let it go. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. I love that money. It's mine. It's mine, like a little kid, my money. I put it in my bank account. And I'm going to grow my money, and I'm not going to help anyone. I'm not going to give anything away. It's all mine. All right. So that's what I'm talking about. I believe that's the love of money. Or you have so much of it, you just get greedy with it, and yeah, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. So it's okay to like money, to even love money, because really money is not really anything but a tool. It's no different than a hammer is a tool, right? So a hammer, I could use it for good and I can use it for evil. I could hammer a nail into a piece of wood to build a house, or I could take the claw of the hammer and stab it into your head and pull your brain out. Not to be too graphic, but that was pretty graphic. But do you see what I mean? A piece of toilet paper is a tool. I can use it to wipe myself, or I could use it to suffocate someone and cause them harm. I could light it on fire in a cocktail and throw it into a house and burn it on fire. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's not the money. A gun could be used to kill an animal. I know there's some animal lovers listening, to eat and feed your family, or it could be used to murder people brutally. You get what I'm saying? It's not the tool, it's the person. And money is no different. I don't know why people put it in a different category. It's just a tool to acquire things or to provide value in exchange for value. So to take money and say that it's the root of all evil, that's ridiculous, because it's the person who has the money. What is he doing with it? You need money to help people, really. I mean, unless you're just giving up all your time, you need money to build shelters, to feed the poor, to do anything. So what I'm saying is in that book that I read, they say a very different thing. Because when you grow up Catholic or Christian, it's almost like money is bad. It's almost like if you have too much of it, you are this evil person. Look on every movie that you see in the movie theater. It's always the evil corporations that are behind all the bad stuff. That's not the way it is, right? That's just a persona of how they're portraying it on TV and in our culture, and in the Christian culture and in the Catholic culture. Not all Christians and Catholics think that way, but most of the people grew up thinking money was bad. So if you have that negative association with money growing up, and then your goal is to get money and security someday, then you would conflict yourself by getting it. So most people self-sabotage. They don't want to get it, because they do want to get it, but then something in them sabotages it because money's bad. And if you make too much or have too much, it's bad. Where in the Jewish culture, and I do have many Jewish friends, I went to college, and I grew up in a very small town where there really wasn't a lot of diversity of anything. But then when I went to college here at the University of Tampa, I ended up learning about a lot of different people and different cultures, and it was pretty awesome in that sense. Not the fact that I had to pay, $100,000 when I got out. So knowing this and knowing different people, the Jewish people's families, the fathers, mothers, parents teach their kids that it is good to earn money. And not only that it is good, you should make it a priority. And it's a very important part of your life is to earn a lot of money and be successful. And I don't know any parents that don't tell their kids that they should be successful. You want your kid to be successful, but how are you living? How are you talking about finances and money and things like that? Because it's not what you tell them, it's what you're doing that they're going to see. So Andrew Lapin, really, it's a great book. If you ever wondered what the Jewish culture and families and what they teach their kids, what they learn about them, and how rabbis preach to the congregation of the Jewish people and the Jewish culture, it's a great insight. Because I was always wondering, I'm like, why are all my Jewish friends pretty wealthy? Like, what is it? And that book kind of explains everything. And I would highly recommend it. It's one of my, top reads of last year or the year before, whenever I read it. But yes, not only that you should, but it's important, and it is your duty to go out and make a lot of money so that you can be a blessing to others, so that you can be a blessing to your family. You always want to be a blessing to your family, not a burden. So when you're an adult, when you're 30, 40, 50, 60, and you have kids and now they're older, you don't want to be a burden on your kids. You want to be a blessing to your kids. You want to leave them an inheritance. You want to leave them whatever, not, can I get a loan type thing. So that's what's taught in that culture, and that's what's very important. So that's part one. So number one, that's why they have generational wealth and generation, these ideas being passed down. That you want your cup to be full. They do this little ritual thing where they fill up a cup and they overflow it so that it's pouring out onto the little dish that's underneath it. And that's kind of how you want to fill yourself up so that you can be full enough to give and pour out onto other people, your money, your time. I mean, because people who are broke do not have the time, because they have to grind 2-3 jobs, whatever they're trying to do. And when you have financial security, you're able to now look outside of yourself and look around what needs to be done, who needs to be helped. So if you did grow up Catholic or Christian or whatever, or just in a household where money was like, oh, look at that rich person, he's evil. It's not the case. The richest people I've ever met, billionaires I've met, are the most generous people I've ever met. It's almost always that way. I don't know if you can get that far holding it and being greedy. Because if your fist is closed around your money and your finances, how can you now open to get more. It's just not the way it works. And if that is the way it works, and I'm wrong, and people do get to that level, being not having integrity and just being very greedy, I don't believe they're very happy up there at the top. I believe it'll be a very lonely place. So that's part one of this podcast, that I wanted to get those ideas out to people, because I know a lot of people grew up that way, and I'm here to tell you that's not the case. It's not evil. Now, if you are an evil person, or I don't even think there's an evil person, if you're acting evil, I don't think anybody's anything. You're either acting a certain way, you're acting good one day, you're acting bad one day, you're happy one day, you're acting sad one day. I think it ebbs and flows. But if you are in an evil state and you have more money, you're going to do more evil with it. If you are a giver and you are a being in a good person state, whatever you want to call it, and money just makes you more of what you already are. Now you can give more. Okay. So keep that in mind. Now, part two, the big thing that I see for young people, and I'm not saying I'm old, I'm 40 years old at the time of this podcast, but I've done a business now for 20 something years, and I've seen a lot of things, and I've experienced a lot of things. But the big mistake I see, and I have a martial arts school where I'm sitting now with a lot of younger students, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, in their low 20s, late 20s, early 30s, and they all make almost the same mistake. The goal, as your income goes up, and I fell into this mistake too a long time ago, as your income goes up, what you want to do, what everyone's inclination to is to spend more, right? So if you make $50,000 a year, your goal in life should be to make the gap of what you make and what you have to pay out, your expenses, make that a huge gap. If you're making 50 grand, try to make your expenses as low as 20 grand. So you could take 30,000 and invest it and give and invest. Because if you're making 50 and you're spending 50, you are broke as a joke. You may look rich. You may look like you have a nice car and a nice apartment, a nice house, but really you have nothing. You're 1 month away from having nothing. Now, let's say you do the right thing and you make 50 grand, you're living on 30 grand, you're saving and investing 20 grand, you make the gap as big as possible, and you invest that 20 grand. Now you're doing okay. If you invest for a whole year, 20,000 times 12, what is it? Do the math. 20,000 a year. I'm sorry, 20,000 a year. You're investing 20,000 a year. After a few years, that can compound into hundreds of thousands of dollars. And eventually when you're 65, it could compound into millions, right? Well, what if you get a raise and now you're making $100,000 a year, and you say to yourself, ooh, now I made it. I did it. Now I could finally get that Hummer I wanted, or that Escalade, or that BMW, or that Mercedes. And now I could finally upgrade to that 3,000 square foot house or apartment. And now your bills went from 30 grand a year up to 100 grand a year. And now you're back you fell in the trap, the gap trap. We'll call it that. Make the gap. The key is, if you could do this, it takes so much discipline and so much desire to want to get ahead. If you went from 50,000 and you're only spending 30, and then you got a raise to go to 100,000, if you can keep somehow mentally disciplined, keep your expenses right there at 30, now you're investing 70 grand a year. You are going to increase your chance of building this huge nest egg so much faster. But that's not what people do, because we want to look a certain way. We want to feel wealthy. We want to see what it's all about. We want to just taste it. We want that $800 car payment, or whatever, $500 to $1,000 car payment. We get that $3,000-$4,000, house or whatever. And now we're back to square one. Now you are trapped. That's called the rat race. If you're making 100 and you're spending 100 each month on your expenses, that's called the rat race. You have to work every single day in order to keep that up. So the goal, the biggest thing I could teach the young people, is to try to live within or even below your means. Take the gap, that money that comes in the gap. If you're making 50 and spending 20, you have $30,000 a year to mess with. I'm not saying this is easy. It's hard. Take that money and learn how to be the best investor you possibly can. Look at stocks, look at index funds, look at real estate, possibly even a side hustle, a business. Put it in there, and don't look at it every day. Don't look at it every week. Don't look at every month, not even maybe once a year, but long term. I used to hate. I still hate it, but I've learned to respect it. The term slow and steady wins the race. Just saying it out of my mouth, I never thought I'd say it. You try to do other things, the shiny objects. Hey, if you ever get a guy that says, dude, I got this tip, you put $5,000 into this, it's going to turn into 35, run. Your investment strategy should be boring. It should be boring. Slow and steady wins the race. Run from those. You will not make any money 99.9% of the time. And guess what? This isn't the 0.01% time where it's going to be different. I've struggled with this my entire late 20s and early 30s. I'll be honest. I've always put stuff away and invested, blah, blah, blah. But I was also always looking for that quick thing. And I'm here to tell you it's not there. Maybe a lottery ticket, but your chances are 0. Blah, 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 blah. It's lottery tickets are a tax on the poor. Remember that. Whenever I heard that, that was the last lottery ticket I bought. I'm like, I'm not getting taxed as a poor person. Screw this. So remember that. Remember that slow and steady wins the race. Read the book, The Compound Effect, because it's going to teach you that in every area of your life, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, business, health, wealth, everything is slow and steady progression. Little tiny changes that you make that add up to big ones, not in 2 years, not in 3 years, but over time. If you're trying to lose weight, throw the scale out, change your life, and just do the right things month by month by month by month. And after 6 to 8 months, 10 months, 11 months, 18 months, go ahead and pull the scale out. This all takes discipline. I'm not saying any of this is easy, but just get this mindset in your head and you will be successful if you follow it. It's just the way it is. It's the laws of the universe. It's the laws of the earth. So unless you just get, inherited millions of dollars or whatever, and it doesn't matter, this is the way to go. I'm here to tell you, as someone who is reformed from that, looking for shiny objects, looking for the next big thing, wasting my money, wasting my time. Slow and steady wins the race. Boring investment strategy. And then of course with real estate, it's never boring. You can get a single family home. You can get some partners together, get a commercial property with a shopping center. Businesses are also fun to invest in if they're the right people and the right systems. There's a million things you can invest in to grow your money, but you ain't going to save for 30 years and make it happen. It's just, unless you just have a crazy high income, it's hard to save yourself into financial freedom. You got to have some investments. You got to become a pro or a partner with a pro and find someone who's really good. So I hope this helps. I hope this, the 2-part series here, the first part, just do a quick recap, is the Jewish people, wealthy people, whatever you want to call the people who teach their kids the right thing, teaching your kids that it is not only a good thing to make a lot of money and save and invest and be a blessing to people, but it is your duty. You should do this. We're expecting this out of you, rather than money is the root of all evil. Rich people are greedy and they don't help anybody and they just care about their businesses and themselves. And they're the ones you see in the corporations and the movies. Baloney. Meet some real people who are wealthy and see what you think. Don't judge based on what people are saying. Use your own experiences and take it from me. Take it from other people who know what they're talking about in this situation. So I hope you enjoyed it. All right. So I wanted to do one on wealth and money and things that I've learned along, my 20-something years of being in business and working and doing all this stuff and learning from my mistakes, not your own. If you're older than me and you're still struggling with this, that's fine too. It's not an age thing. It's just where you're at. And not all the podcasts are going to be on this. We're going to do some health and like the habits and things like that, and jiu-jitsu stuff and business and marketing and sales and all sorts of awesome stuff that I love talking about. I love learning about. So I will see you all on the next Arroyo show. I really hope you enjoyed it. Have a great one.